Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for, well, one of the most intellectually dizzying sessions, I think, but also strangely domestic from the early Seth Material. We're heading back to 1964,
Right.
where high metaphysics seems to meet malfunctioning kitchen appliances. It's quite the mix.
He really is. This deep dive takes us right into session 54 of the early sessions book 2 of Seth Material. It was recorded, let's see, May 18th, 1964, a Monday evening.
Okay.
And it's just crucial. It really delivers some core mechanics, how identity is structured, why our whole understanding of time might be, well, fundamentally flawed.
So that's our mission then, to kind of pull out those really dense ideas about what dynamic psychic identity
The Gestalt.
Exactly.
The Gestalt. And Seth's pretty radical critique of sequential time, what he calls the spacious present.
But we're also here for the vibe, right? Because this session, it's got everything. A nervous medium, a curious guest,
Oh, yeah.
an existential threat involving a neighbor, and famously, a piece of rather aggressive poultry.
You can't forget the chicken. The scene itself, it really tells a story. It's Monday night, Jane Roberts, Ruburt Dairy. She's feeling the pressure. She'd had some short sessions recently, worried about, losing the connection.
Yeah.
Even though her wry neck, that physical issue, had finally cleared up.
Right. She was physically better, but mentally maybe a bit anxious.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And they had a witness there, John Bradley, who Seth calls Philip.
Okay, so an observer.
Yep. And the atmosphere, right from the start, it was physically charged. Joseph, Rob Butts, the note-taker, he recorded this fascinating sensory thing happening immediately.
What was that?
As soon as Seth started speaking, Joseph felt a distinct, definite chill.
Wow.
And then that gave way to his familiar, thrilling sensation, which Seth had previously told him was actually the feeling of sound.
Feeling of sound, that's interesting. Almost synesthetic.
It is, and that sensory detail, that's important for us, for you listening, because it signals this isn't just coming from Jane's conscious mind,
Right. It's something else.
This physical chill, then the thrilling sensation.
Yeah.
It's like a measurable energetic signature. It says the energy transfer is palpable, the source is, well, non-local. It sets this perfect, slightly unsettling stage for the ideas we're about to dig into.
Okay, let's dive in then. The central question that really kicks off this session. It came from John Bradley, the witness, Philip.
Right. He was trying to make sense of something from a previous session.
Which was?
They'd learned that Jane, in a past life, way back in Mesopotamia, 4th century BC, was actually a man named Seth.
Okay.
And this past life, Seth was the brother to a woman who was Joseph in that life and a sister who was Frank Watts. So connections across lifetimes.
Got it. So John Bradley, being the observer, he's got this very logical question for the entity speaking now.
Exactly. He's thinking, okay, is this entity Seth the exact same guy from Mesopotamia that Jane apparently was? Is he invading her or just sort of reoccupying his old self?
It's a fair question. You'd almost expect a simple yes or no from a, higher dimensional being.
You would. But Seth clarifies the connection while making sure they don't fall into that trap. The trap of thinking identity is static, fixed.
So what did he say?
He confirms the link, but it comes with this huge caveat. He says quite clearly, "Your Ruburt was indeed Seth. Your Ruburt spoke with my voice, for it was his voice."
His voice was his voice. That's intriguing phrasing.
It is, and Seth immediately stresses no invasion involved. Because think about it. If he just said, "Yeah, I am Ruburt," they might have just concluded, oh, it's just Jane's subconscious.
Right, it would undermine the whole thing.
Totally. The truth, though, is way more complex. It involves this dynamic evolution of consciousness.
Okay, so this is where we get into that core concept, dynamic identity.
Exactly. Seth explains that Ruburt is nevertheless an extension and materialization of the Seth that I was at one time. Meaning nothing, no personality, no entity stays the same.
Everything evolves.
Everything evolves, expands. You can't just freeze a personality like a snapshot from a past life. It's an evolutionary framework.
So that Seth from Mesopotamia wasn't the final version?
Not at all. He was a point of focus, maybe. Ruburt isn't just a reincarnation. He's more like an outgrowth, a dynamic, possible evolutionary path that emerged from that original energy.
Okay.
Seth really hammers this point. He's now an actual Gestalt, a personality that was one of the probable personalities into which Seth could grow. I represent another. I am another.
Wow. So the original Seth energy didn't just repeat itself, it branched out.
Exactly. It split into different durable personalities like Ruburt, Jane, and the Seth, speaking now to explore different paths simultaneously. Different ways of achieving what Seth calls value fulfillment.
And that shared origin explains why the communication works.
That's the idea. Their psychic territory is the same. There's this inherent resonance because they came from the same source field, which is why Seth insists no invasion occurs. It's more like sympathetic vibration.
It completely reframes how you think about the self. We aren't static things. We're like these branching, evolving systems, always multiplying experience. And, okay, before Seth goes even deeper into the physics of this branching Gestalt thing, we get one of those classic Seth moments, the highly specific, almost ridiculously mundane piece of personal advice, the blue couch crisis.
Oh, yes, the blue couch, where the cosmic entity basically acts like a slightly nosy but very effective neighbor.
Right. After laying out this grand theory of evolving consciousness across millennia, he just casually drops this domestic warning.
He tells them to watch out for May 23rd concerning their neighbor, Miss Callahan, and then says Joseph made a good move getting rid of their old blue couch.
Okay, hang on. The couch. How does a piece of furniture prevent a crisis? This is where it gets wonderfully strange.
It is strange, but Seth connects this totally mundane decision to metaphysical outcomes. He says Miss Callahan was seeking the couch, or maybe wanting it, focusing on it. And if it had still been there, a critical situation would have resulted. The couch itself was like a focal point for potential trouble.
The sheer specificity is what gets me. It implies this entity is totally aware of, the smallest details of their physical lives, down to the sofa.
Completely aware. And then Seth gives this moment of genuinely funny relief. She will not bother your neighbor.
Which implies the critical situation wasn't necessarily from Miss Callahan, but maybe caused by her, directed at someone else, maybe focused through her desire for the couch.
That's how it reads, yeah. Removing the object, the focal point, just diffused a potential chain of, let's say, undesirable events involving the neighbor. Simple cause and effect, but operating on an energetic level linked to an object.
It's such a great contrast, isn't it? You've got these huge metaphysical ideas and then concern over where the old sofa ended up because it was tied to an emotional flashpoint.
It really tells you that the physical world, the camouflage world, as Seth calls it, is intensely interconnected with that inner energetic reality, even down to furniture.
Okay, so that connection between inner energy and the physical world, that leads us right into the next big topic. How identity itself is constructed. The Gestalt principle.
Right. And Seth uses physical matter as the analogy here, which is brilliant, to explain how these dynamic identities are built.
He starts by reminding them of something we often just gloss over, which is pretty mind-bending itself.
What's that?
That atoms, molecules, all those tiny physical bits, they actually possess their own consciousness, their own self-awareness. They aren't just dead matter waiting for instructions.
That's such a fundamental premise in the Seth material, isn't it? Consciousness comes first.
Always.
Always. So if the tiniest bits, the atoms, have self-awareness, then the complex things they build, cells, organs, us, must also retain and even expand that awareness.
Exactly. So those conscious particles and molecules combine to form cells. The cells combine to form organs. But Seth stresses, and this is key, the original components don't lose their individuality. The atoms still know they're atoms.
Right.
But through combining, the whole becomes more than the sum of its parts. It gains higher perceptions. That's the Gestalt.
Okay, so applying that Gestalt idea to the psychic structure, that gets us to the psychic tree analogy, part 1.
Lay it on us.
Just like conscious molecules form bigger conscious structures like organs, the basic components or fragments of an entity are constantly forming new and varied personalities. Our single-focused personality right now, just one fragment.
Just one piece.
One piece. So think of the original Seth entity as this vast tree trunk and root system.
Okay.
Ruburt and the current speaking Seth, they're like two major branches or psychic territories that grew out of that common root. This Gestalt mechanism explains how they can be distinct individuals, yet share that same psychic resonance, that same territory.
Because they're exploring different necessary various possibilities that the original, maybe more static energy couldn't explore all at once.
Exactly. It clarifies the driving force behind existence itself. It's not about staying the same. It's about the relentless multiplication of experience and potential.
So if consciousness didn't branch out and expand, if it just stayed frozen in one identity,
value fulfillment would just stop. This constant splitting and evolving, that's the engine of the universe, according to Seth.
But doesn't that sound a bit unstable, psychically speaking? If my identity is constantly branching off, what keeps me? Me. What ensures the continuity of my core self?
Ah, that's the brilliant question the Gestalt answers. Seth says you absolutely retain the inner ego, your own core identity, even as you are, quote, broken up a million times and put together in many various manners.
Broken up a million times. Wow.
Yeah. The inner ego is that unifying force. It recognizes and connects all these fragments, past, present, future, across all the simultaneous branches. The dynamism, paradoxically, is what ensures the stability of the greater entity. It prevents any single fragment from becoming fixed, rigid, non-creative.
That's a really powerful idea. The change is the stability.
In a way, yes. And I appreciate that Seth often acknowledged how much mental effort this stuff takes. Just before the session break, he gave them this quote that was basically like self-aware homework instructions.
What did he say?
I realized that this is somewhat difficult, but when you reread the last two sessions, you will understand this material completely. He knew he was laying down some heavy theory. He's basically saying, go back, study this, it'll click.
It's good he acknowledged it. Okay, so coming back after that break, after discussing the Gestalt, Seth immediately pivots.
Right. He turns his attention to maybe the most ingrained limiting belief system we have in the physical world. Linear time. Sequential time.
And its partner in crime, cause and effect.
Exactly. And he just dismantles it. Calls the theory of cause and effect faulty and antiquated.
Why faulty? Because the whole theory depends on time moving in a straight line.
Precisely. If A causes B, then A has to happen before B. That's fundamental to causality as we know it.
But if time doesn't proceed linearly,
then the entire structure of physical causality just collapses, or at least it's shown to be a very limited perspective.
So what's the alternative? If not linear time, then what?
That's where he defines the spacious present. This is the ultimate reality, he says. The state where all consciousnesses, all events, all potentials, they all exist simultaneously.
Simultaneous.
In a single, durable, spontaneous now. Past, present, future. Those are just illusions, necessary filters for our highly focused physical consciousness to handle reality.
Okay, but how does the human mind even begin to grasp that? Our whole lives are structured by sequence. Sunrise, lunchtime, bedtime. A durable, spontaneous now feels impossible.
Seth knew it was difficult. And to explain it, he uses an analogy. He admits it's old, rather trite, I'm afraid, but it's incredibly effective. The forest analogy.
Ah, yes, the forest. Let's walk through that. It's great for visualizing this.
Okay, think of time as the entire vast forest, existing all at once. Every tree, every path, every leaf.
The whole thing is there now.
Right. Now, we, in our focused outer egos, we're walking along just one single narrow path within that huge forest.
Okay, I'm with you.
That path feels sequential. We see the trees we just passed as the past. The trees up ahead, around the bend, they seem like the future. Our conscious focus creates that linear path experience.
But the crucial realization
is that the entire forest exists right now. All of it. The trees, the other paths we aren't on, the rocks, the canopy, everything. That whole forest is the spacious present.
And the trees themselves, what do they represent?
He compares the trees to consciousnesses. And they aren't expanding just in physical space or over linear time. They're expanding in terms of value fulfillment.
Value fulfillment again. That seems to be the driving purpose.
It's the key mechanism here, yeah. It's the purpose of the spacious present. Consciousness expands by fulfilling its abilities, its potential, which get constructed on all these different levels and guises. The growth isn't chronological. It's energetic. It's qualitative.
So when we see growth sequentially, like a child becoming an adult over 20 years, that's just our linear interpretation.
That's our interpretation of simultaneous value fulfillment happening across maybe multiple psychic branches viewed through our time-bound lens.
This really does tackle some big existential questions. Like, if everything exists simultaneously, how can new entities even be created? It sounds contradictory.
Right. From our linear viewpoint, it looks like a paradox. Seth says all entities existed before the planet, yet new ones are clearly being formed now. How can both be true?
Yeah.
In the spontaneous now of the spacious present, both statements are true because existence isn't limited by chronology. Creation is constant and simultaneous.
Our physical senses are just filtering out almost everything then to give us this manageable frame-by-frame movie.
Exactly. When the entire film reel is sitting right there, whole and instantaneous, we just don't perceive it that way.
It is genuinely dizzying stuff. And again, Seth seems aware of the mental gymnastics required.
Oh, completely. He offers that perfect moment of cosmic humor right before signaling the break again.
What did he say this time?
I suggest your break. And if this hasn't broken you up, then nothing will. just acknowledging the sheer mind-bending nature of it all.
He had a sense of humor about it.
Definitely. And he immediately follows that up by reminding them and us that this mental breakup is actually the nature of reality itself. He says, you are indeed, as you can see, broken up a million times and put together in many various manners, and yet you retain the inner ego, and in other words, your own identity. But this identity must change. This, again, is no contradiction. Nothing can be static, and believe it or not, nothing is.
So the change, the constant reassembly, that's what keeps the identity alive and growing, not staying fixed.
Precisely. The constant change is the continuity, in a sense.
Okay, so that dynamic, non-static quality, that brings us back to the entity in the psychic tree analogy, part 2.
Right. Now, focusing on the branching identity and specifically the mechanism of choice.
The entity is the tree, the Gestalt. It produces lots of seeds.
Which are the fragment personalities. Each seed carries the potential to become a full, autonomous entity itself. That's how consciousness propagates, expands its experience.
And this leads to what I think is maybe the most profound, maybe even challenging claim in the whole session. It flips our usual script on failure or why things don't thrive.
Yeah, this is a big one. Seth claims that when some of those seeds, those fragment personalities, don't develop into full entities, it's not because they're psychically deficient or lack ability.
It's not lack. Then what is it?
It's because they do not choose to do so.
Whoa, so it's a choice, not bad luck or poor conditions.
That's the implication. An immense statement. It basically removes external lack, environment, genetics, circumstances as the primary reason for non-development. Consciousness is sovereign. If a fragment chooses not to develop fully, it's an internal conscious decision at some level, not just an environmental failure.
And he doesn't just leave it at the psychic level, does he? He applies it directly to the physical world.
No, he brings it right down to earth, which gives it immediate, tangible weight. He says, and this is quite startling, I will go further and shock you thoroughly by mentioning that your regular seeds that do not develop do not fail as a rule because of a lack of the necessary environmental ingredients, but simply because, for various reasons during a particular arbitrary point, they do not choose to so develop.
So the rose seed that never sprouts in the garden, or maybe human potential that seems to stay dormant, often that's an internal choice, made somewhere deeper than the physical.
That's what he's saying. Consciousness is the power behind manifestation. It comes first. So the failure to materialize or develop fully is presented as a choice of that consciousness, not just a lack of sun or water or opportunity.
If consciousness always chooses, how does that reshape our view of death? We see growth as linear, leading eventually to disintegration, which we call psychic destruction, and death.
Seth corrects that linear distortion. Yeah. He says, in reality, there's only spontaneous change of form. What we call disintegration is just a change of frequency, a change of structure.
Not an endpoint.
Not an endpoint. He makes the counterintuitive point that if change weren't constantly happening, then you could actually mark a specific moment of death. But because change is constant, gradual, spontaneous, there's no precise point of death. And for that matter, no precise point of birth either. Everything is always in flux, always becoming something else.
And this constant flux, this spontaneous change, that connects to something else really unsettling he mentions, about the persistence of personality after death.
Yes. He references that old superstition, that a person isn't truly gone until everyone who knew them is also dead.
And Seth confirms there's truth to that. Why?
Because memory, particularly collective memory on the physical plane, is incredibly powerful. Every person who knew the individual friends, family, even casual acquaintances, holds their own image, their own energetic pattern of that specific personality fragment.
So memory acts like an anchor.
Like a collective energetic force, yeah. It keeps that particular aspect of the personality alive and sort of fixed upon the physical plane, tuned into it.
That sounds, frankly, exhausting for the entity trying to move on, to be tethered by the living's memories.
Exactly. And Seth adds that chilling little note. This persistence is not always to his advantage. That specific personality fragment gets held in place by the collective mental landscape here. It could potentially hinder its spontaneous, necessary movement into new forms, new value fulfillment. It implies a kind of psychic drag caused by our attachments and remembrance.
A chilling thought indeed. Okay, this intense discussion about psychic depth, it naturally leads into the mechanics of the session itself, how Seth uses Seth-Ruburt to get this material across.
Right, and he specifically avoids the traditional deep trance state. He has a very clear reason for that.
Which is?
He explains that the receiver, Jane in this case, must already possess the ability and a high degree of inner freedom to consciously comprehend the knowledge being transmitted. He's not interested in just dictating nonsense or using her like a puppet.
So if she lacked that inner capacity, that framework for understanding,
The result would just be gibberish, he says, because no truly new comprehension can be just beamed in from another plane without the receiver's own inner ego already being involved, already having some resonance with the concepts.
so the receiver has to be capable of meeting the information halfway, so to speak.
Exactly. And this is why he dislikes the standard terminology. He
Wow.
apparently hated the word medium. And he insisted that what people call ESP, extrasensory perception, should really be called inner sense perception. It's not extra. It's the natural ability of the inner ego to perceive the bigger simultaneous reality. He wanted Jane to feel she had a conscious, comprehending role in delivering the material so she could actually use the knowledge herself.
That makes sense. This focus on comprehension and the inner structure brings us back to the fundamental principle behind everything, the law of creation itself.
Right. We return to the Gestalt idea, but now focusing on the energy dynamics.
We established consciousness comes first, materializing into the physical building blocks, atoms, molecules.
But Seth says when this materialization happens, it's never total. It can't be. And this is where we get that incredible, unique concept, the extral value.
Extral value. Such a strange word. Joseph, the note-taker, even looked it up afterwards, right? Linked it maybe to extralimitary meaning beyond the limit.
Yeah, which suggests Seth was deliberately using language that pushed the boundaries of their understanding at the time. The dictionary definition fits perfectly.
How did Seth define this extral value?
He defined it as a value greater than the sum of its individual parts. When consciousness focuses and materializes to form a physical reality like our body, our personality, the result is this extral value. But here's the catch. This value is defined by the fact that the bulk of the inner identity is not able, or maybe not intended, to fully materialize on the physical plane.
Wait, so the physical personality we experience right now, the me driving this body, thinking these thoughts, that's fundamentally incomplete. It's only a tiny fraction of the whole consciousness.
Precisely that. We are experiencing only a small, highly focused fragment of our total self. The intellectual activity of our outer ego, Seth explains, is just a pale image of the inner ego.
A pale image.
The inner ego is the part of the Gestalt that remains connected to and directly familiar with the inner laws of the universe. It knows about the spacious present, about simultaneous time, about value fulfillment mechanisms. It hasn't squeezed itself entirely into the physical framework.
So when we have those flashes of intuition, or moments of psychic insight, that's not some weird external force breaking in.
Not according to this. It's the inner ego, the bulk of our own consciousness, the extral value temporarily bypassing the filters of the outer ego and transmitting its innate knowledge. The inner ego is the real guide, the source within.
Wow. And the goal then, for us, for these sessions, or maybe all of life,
Is for that pale image, the outer ego, to consciously grow closer to, more aligned with, the vast knowledge and experience already held by its own inner ego, to bridge that gap.
Okay. Having laid down these huge cosmic laws, the physics of psychic identity, Seth then pivots again, doesn't he? He shows how these vast principles connect directly to the immediate practical lives of Jane, Rob, and John Bradley in the room.
He does, starting with some very personal guidance and even specific predictions.
What sort of advice did he give?
Well, for Seth-Ruburt about the ESP book she was writing, he basically told her, rely on your own experience, especially her experiments with psychological time. He said, forget other researchers. You have the best teacher right there, your own inner self.
Trust your own inner senses.
Exactly. And for the witness, Philip John Bradley, he gave some quite specific business-related pointers. He noted changes were already happening among leaders in John's industry. He worked as Earl Drug. And that a figure, identified only as RG, might become important.
And did that pan out?
John later confirmed his company was indeed facing intense competition right then, suggesting changes were definitely needed. It validated Seth's awareness of current real-world situations.
But the most important piece of guidance, the one that feels heaviest, carries the most weight. That concerned Jane's use of her own inner power, right? What Seth called the experience of ecstasy.
Yes. This is a truly chilling warning about the real, immediate power that comes with focused inner energy.
He described this ability she was developing, maybe earlier than expected, as an amazing ability to focus the complete inner energy. It sounds like a mechanism of creation itself, linking the inner ego directly to physical manifestation.
That's exactly what it sounds like. And this ability, Seth warns very strongly, it must be used with tremendous discipline. with discretion. It must never be used for the outer ego's fleeting negative emotions. This is where huge responsibility comes in.
Why so serious? What's the risk if she, say, used this focused energy when she was just angry or upset?
The warning is crystal clear and quite stark. He explains that if she used that tremendous focused inner energy unwittingly, say, when Ruburt was feeling upset with a certain person, could lead to unfavorable circumstances for the person involved.
Unfavorable circumstances. He's saying her negative thoughts, if powered by this focused energy, could actually manifest harmfully in someone else's reality.
That's exactly what he's stating.
Yeah.
You make sure to add, this is not shades of witchcraft. It's just the raw, unadulterated power of consciousness acting directly on reality. It's the ultimate caution. Be incredibly mindful of your thoughts and emotions once you start accessing this deeper power.
It's that classic lesson, isn't it? With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Your focused thought, aligned with the inner ego, has immediate effects in the spacious present.
Immense responsibility.
And then finally, after all the deep metaphysics, the gestalts, the spacious present, the warnings about psychic power, we get the infamous comedy closeout.
Yeah.
The chicken incident, which just perfectly anchors the whole thing back to, Elmira, New York, 1964.
Yes, the much-needed tension release. During the final break, Jane had put a frying pan with some already cooked chicken on the stove, just to warm it up on low. But as Seth was delivering his final, very dense pronouncement, the chicken decided it had other plans. It started to aggressively fry.
Oh, no.
Joseph recorded it vividly. The chicken was making a racket. It started smoking. It desperately needed turning.
So what happened?
The witness, John Bradley, actually had to get up, leave his observer seat, and go tend to the impending kitchen disaster while Jane just kept pacing and dictating, apparently totally oblivious to the smoking poultry crisis behind her.
That is priceless. The cosmic entity dictating the secrets of the universe while dinner goes up in smoke. It's the perfect metaphor.
It really is. And Seth, fully aware of this hilarious collision of cosmic and domestic planes, signs off with this brilliant, witty flourish, his last words of the session.
Go on.
I hope you all enjoy your chicken. I never liked it myself. A chicken is a foul bird.
Foul bird. Oh, that's perfect. A great final note, showing that relaxed, even witty perspective on our everyday human concerns. You gotta love it.
Absolutely. It keeps the whole thing grounded in a weird way.
Okay, but the impact of Session 54 didn't actually end when the chicken was saved from incineration. Joseph, Rob Butts the note-taker, he took these ideas, dynamic identity, spacious present, really seriously.
He did. He immediately started trying out those psychological time experiments Seth had mentioned in the days right after the session.
Which just shows how visceral the effect of this material was on them. He wasn't just writing it down, he was trying to live it, to perceive that non-sequential reality Seth described.
Exactly. And he recorded some pretty bizarre but compelling experiences as a direct result.
Like what sort of things did he experience?
Well, one of the earliest was purely auditory and kind of unsettling. He was suddenly woken up by a loud, unrecognizable shouting voice. It seemed to come from his left, just out of nowhere. A sensory breakthrough, maybe, suggesting reality beyond normal hearing.
And physically?
He also repeatedly noted sensations of his physical form shifting, particularly feeling like his hands were fat or enlarged. He wrote that this was becoming quite commonplace for him, along with that thrilling sensation, the feeling of sound. His perceptions were definitely becoming more fluid.
And he had visual experiences too, right? That confirmed this idea of a simultaneous self.
Arguably the most dramatic one, yeah. He experienced seeing himself standing directly over his own body, with his feet resting on his own chest.
Wow, classic out-of-body perspective.
Textbook example. And it was accompanied by that familiar, thrilling sensation. Then he also had a clear vision of his, quote, second self, another fragment of his Gestalt, presumably.
What was the second self doing?
Sitting at a desk, apparently answering a question Joseph had recently been pondering internally. The second self said, "Why, certainly don't you see how it works by now?"
Huh. Like the inner self is just waiting for the outer self to catch up. It already knows the answer.
Exactly. It fits perfectly with the extra value idea. The inner ego knows. It's just about the outer ego aligning to hear it.
Did he have other physical sensations?
Yeah, he also noted his arms feeling very light, almost weightless. And this sensation could be triggered just by him suggesting to himself that he felt light, or even by random external sounds, like a robin singing or car passing.
So the connection between focused thought, suggestion, and physical perception was immediately heightened for him. Highly responsive.
It really demonstrates that accepting these concepts that we're dynamic, non-static beings in a spontaneous now, it doesn't just change your philosophy. It can immediately start changing your perceived sensory reality. The filters start shifting.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's try to synthesize this. If we pull together the core mechanics revealed in this incredibly dense session 54, what are the main takeaways for you, the listener?
I think there are three crucial ones to really sit with.
Go for it.
First, identity is dynamic. It's evolutionary. You are a Gestalt, an ever-evolving system of conscious fragments, always branching into new possibilities for value fulfillment. You are never static. The idea of a fixed personality, that's the illusion.
Okay, dynamic identity. What's second?
Second, time is the forest, not the path. Our familiar sequential cause and effect reality is built on what Seth calls a false premise. All consciousness, all events, they exist simultaneously in the spontaneous, spacious present. Linear time is the filter, not the reality.
The spacious present. Got it. And third?
Third, consciousness chooses development. The power of inner awareness is paramount. Even the apparent failure of a potential to materialize a seed, an idea, a life path is often presented here as an internal choice of consciousness, not just bad luck or lack of resources.
Consciousness chooses. Wow. Okay, those are big. Dynamic identity, the spacious present, and consciousness chooses.
Which leaves us with that final provocative thought to maybe mull over.
Let's hear it.
If your inner ego, that external value part of you, is already directly familiar with the inner laws of the universe, and if all time is simultaneous, could your own intentional exploration, psychological time experiments, deep introspection, actually lead you to experience information, knowledge, maybe even solutions, before they've consciously appeared on your linear path?
Could you access the future parts of the forest now?
Definitely something to consider as you navigate the spontaneous forest of your own existence.
Indeed.
We are, as always, incredibly grateful for the insights shared in the Seth Material, and huge thanks to the publisher, New Awareness Network, for making this material accessible for this kind of deep dive.
Absolutely. And we really encourage you, if this resonates, to study the Seth Material books yourself. Visit the New Awareness Network website and bookstore for more on these really profound concepts.
You can find all those resources, session info, everything at sethcenter.com, the early sessions.
Until the next deep dive, maybe keep questioning the foul nature of reality.